of me!
I told you, you are not leaving this party until we talk.
You really thought Seoul would hide you? I felt his breath before I heard his voice. Logan's fingers wrapped around my wrist at the edge of the Signal Seoul ballroom, right beneath the crystal chandeliers where South Korea's elite sipped champagne worth more than my rent. Logan, what are you? Let go. Shut up and walk. I tried to pull back. His grip turned to iron. 6 months. 6 months of sleeping in hostels under fake names, learning Korean phrases I'd never use, walking different routes through Gangnam until my feet bled. 6 months and he found me at the latte charity gala like I'd left a trail of breadcrumbs. We need to talk, Kayla, he'd said at the entrance, smiling like we were old lovers reuniting. I yanked harder. Let go. He didn't. The violins didn't stop. Conversations about Samsung stocks and European vacations continued. A woman in a white Chanel gown glanced over, then turned back to her date. A man in Armani checked his Rolex. Logan's hand slid from my wrist to my hair. That's when everything went white. Screaming. Stop. Look at me when I'm talking to you. The pain exploded across my scalp so fast the ballroom tilted. He twisted his fist into the roots and jerked me backward, bending me double. I heard my own voice crack into something inhuman, begging. My fingers clawed at his wrist. My red silk dress tore against the polished marble. He laughed. The kind of laugh that said he'd been planning this since I boarded that flight to Incheon. You embarrassed me, he hissed in my ear. You think you can just disappear? 80 people. 80 witnesses in designer labels and inherited wealth. Not one of them moved. If you've ever hated how people watch abuse and pretend it's normal, hit like and subscribe right now, because someone is about to step in, and Seoul will never be the same. But someone was watching. Across the ballroom, standing by the bar with a whiskey he hadn't touched, there was a man I'd never seen before. Korean, maybe early 30s, dressed in a tailored black suit with the kind of precision that said bespoke. He wasn't filming on his phone. He wasn't whispering to security. He was just, still. Watching Logan drag me like livestock. Watching the crowd pretend they were blind. His eyes weren't angry. They were doing math. Logan jerked my hair again, forcing my head down until I could taste blood from biting my tongue. Through the blur of tears, I caught one last glimpse of the man at the bar. He set his glass down slowly, the sound of crystal on marble somehow cutting through the violin concerto. Then he started walking toward us. No rush. No panic. Just footsteps that sounded too deliberate for what was happening. And when I looked up through the agony, I saw his hand move to the front of his jacket. He unbuttoned it once. The room went silent. Who are you? This doesn't concern you, man. Everyone saw what Logan was doing to me. But only one person decided it was over. If you've ever wondered what happens when someone finally steps in, when the most dangerous man in Seoul unbuttoned his jacket and changed someone's life forever, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop your location and the time you're watching in the comments. Because what came next? You need to see this. Logan's grip loosened. Not because he wanted to. Because the man in the black suit was now standing 3 feet away, and Logan had finally recognized him. I said, "Who are you?" Logan's voice cracked mid-sentence. The man didn't answer immediately. He just stood there, one hand resting casually near the open edge of his jacket. I could see it now, the dark leather of a shoulder holster, and beneath it, ink. Tattoos that disappeared under the white shirt, the kind that told stories in the Korean underworld. She is under my protection. His voice was quiet. Almost polite. The kind of calm that made the threat worse. Logan's hand fell away from my hair completely. I collapsed forward onto my hands and knees, gasping, my scalp still burning. I don't know who you think you are, but this is between me and my girlfriend. No. The man tilted his head slightly. You misunderstand. She is under my protection. Not a request. Not a negotiation. Someone in the crowd whispered a name. I couldn't hear it clearly, but I saw what it did to Logan's face. The color drained. His bravado shattered like the champagne flutes now sitting abandoned on tables around us. I didn't know, Logan stammered, backing up a step. His eyes darted to the holster, to the tattoos, to the man's face. Look, man, this is just a misunderstanding. We can talk about this. There is nothing to discuss. The man's hand moved fractionally closer to his jacket. He didn't draw anything. Didn't need to. Logan turned and ran. Not walked. Ran. Through the ballroom, past the staring socialites, past the violinists who'd finally stopped playing, straight out the grand entrance like the building was on fire. The man watched him go with the same calculating expression he'd worn at the bar. Then he turned to look down at me, still crumpled on the marble floor in my torn red dress. He didn't offer his hand. Didn't kneel. Just nodded once, then looked past me toward the entrance. A man appeared, Korean, older, built like a bodyguard but dressed in a driver's uniform. Stern face. No emotion. Juan will take you somewhere safe, the man in the black suit said. It wasn't a suggestion. I wanted to ask questions. Who are you? What just happened? Why did Logan run like that? But my voice wouldn't work. My body wouldn't work. I was shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Juan stepped forward and gently helped me to my feet. His grip was firm but careful, like he was handling something fragile. I looked back once as Juan guided me toward a private exit. The man in the black suit had already returned to the bar, picking up his whiskey like nothing had happened. The crowd was already pretending none of this had occurred. But I would never forget the way Logan's face had gone white when he heard that name. The elevator required a fingerprint. Juan pressed his thumb to a matte black panel, and we began ascending. No buttons. No floor numbers. Just a seamless rise that made my stomach drop as Seoul fell away beneath us. I watched the city lights blur through the glass walls. Gangnam. Itaewon. The Han River cutting through it all like a dark ribbon. We climbed higher than I thought possible, past the luxury hotels, past the corporate towers, into a neighborhood I recognized from magazine spreads. Apgujeong. Where Korea's wealthiest lived in penthouses that cost more than small countries. The elevator opened directly into the apartment. Not a hallway. Not a lobby. Just, in. I stepped onto white marble so polished it looked like ice. The entire space was a study in control, gray minimalist furniture, steel accents, floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased Seoul like a living photograph 50 stories below. No plants. No personal photos. No warmth. It felt less like a home and more like a vault designed to keep the world out. Guest suite is down the hall, Juan said, his first word since the gala. Second door. Everything you need is there. Then he disappeared into another room, leaving me alone in this sterile luxury. I walked down the hallway on shaking legs, my heels clicking against marble. The second door opened to reveal a bedroom that looked like it belonged in a five-star hotel, king bed with white linens, attached bathroom in gray stone, a desk with a laptop I definitely wasn't going to touch. But it was the closet that made me freeze. I opened it expecting emptiness. Instead, I found a wardrobe. My size. Exactly my size. Jeans in the wash I preferred. Sweaters in colors I actually wore. Comfortable sneakers, elegant flats, even pajamas in soft cotton that matched ones I donated before leaving the States. My hands trembled as I pushed hangers aside. That's when I saw it. Hanging in the back, still wrapped in protective plastic, a red silk dress. Not the torn one from tonight. A different one. The one I'd seen in a boutique window in Itaewon 3 months ago, the one I'd stood outside staring at for 20 minutes before walking away because I couldn't justify the price. The one I never bought. The one I never told anyone about. I pulled it out with numb fingers, checking the tag. My size. My exact measurements. The realization hit like ice water, he's been watching me. Not since tonight. Not since Logan showed up. 4 months. The black cars I'd seen idling near my apartment. The feeling of being followed through Gangnam shopping districts. The strange sense that someone always knew where I was. It wasn't Logan hunting me. It was him. The man from the bar. Ji, I'd finally heard his name whispered in the elevator. He'd been watching me long enough to know my size. My style. My window shopping habits. I sank onto the edge of the bed, still holding the dress, and finally let myself ask the question I'd been avoiding. What exactly did I just walk into? I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those black sedans. The ones with tinted windows that had haunted my mornings for months. August. The first time I'd noticed one parked outside Café Onion in Itaewon, where I ordered the same iced Americano every morning at 8:15. I'd convinced myself it was paranoia. Seoul was full of expensive cars. September. Another one idling near the subway entrance I used to get to my English teaching job. Same make. Same model. Different license plate. I'd started taking different routes, zigzagging through side streets until my calves ached. October. One parked directly across from my building in the rain, engine running, wipers off. I'd stood at my window for an hour, phone in hand, debating whether to call the police. It drove away at midnight. I'd been so sure it was Logan. That he'd hired someone to track me. That any day, he'd show up and drag me back. I'd been wrong about who was watching. A soft knock interrupted my spiral. Miss Gary. Juan's voice through the door. Dinner. I didn't want to eat. Didn't want to face whoever owned this vault. But refusing felt more dangerous than complying. The dining room was as minimalist as the rest, a long black table, 2 place settings, windows showcasing Seoul's glittering nightscape. Traditional Korean dishes were already laid out, japchae, kimchi, grilled mackerel, banchan in small ceramic dishes. He was already seated. Ji. That was the name I'd finally pieced together from whispered conversations in the elevator. He'd changed into a simple white shirt, sleeves still rolled to his forearms, revealing more of the tattoos that had terrified Logan. He didn't look up when I entered. Sit, he said quietly. Not a command. A statement. I sat. We ate in silence for several minutes. He moved with precise efficiency, his chopsticks never fumbling. I pushed food around my plate, my appetite buried under 1,000 questions. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. The cars, I said. The black sedans in Itaewon. That was you. He set down his chopsticks, took a sip of water. Yes. Why? You were exposed. His voice remained calm, almost clinical. Your ex-boyfriend was making inquiries through channels that reached problematic people. People who would have used you as leverage. Logan was, I stopped. What kind of inquiries? The kind that involved debts. Significant ones. Yi-jun's dark eyes met mine. He offered you as collateral to a syndicate in Busan. To buy himself time. The room tilted. He sold me. He attempted to. Yi-jun picked up his chopsticks again. I made sure the transaction never completed. By buying me yourself. By ensuring you remained untouchable. He took another bite, unbothered. The cars weren't hunting you, Miss Gary. They were protecting you. From him. From them. I stared at this stranger who'd apparently been my shadow for months. How long have you been watching me? Since the contract was first proposed. He didn't elaborate. You were never in danger from me. Just from everyone else. For the first time, something almost resembling emotion crossed his face. Yes. I don't understand. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Logan doesn't have that kind of money to gamble. He's a gym manager. Yi-jun set down his chopsticks with deliberate precision. He was a gym manager. He stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seoul glittered behind him like a circuit board. He's been unemployed for 8 months. Spending his days at underground poker games in Busan. High stakes. Russian and Korean players. The kind of tables where you don't leave until the house says you can. My stomach turned. How much does he owe? 4 million USD. Give or take. I nearly choked. 4 million. He was winning at first. Got confident. Started betting on credit extended by the Busan syndicate. Yi-jun's reflection in the window was unnervingly still. Then his luck turned. The syndicate wanted their money. Logan didn't have it. So I couldn't finish the sentence. Yi-jun turned to face me. He offered you. Not as metaphor. As literal collateral. He signed a contract 3 months ago promising to deliver you to their organization in exchange for debt forgiveness and a grace period. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table. Tonight wasn't about love, he continued, his voice clinical. It was a transaction. The gala was the arranged handoff point. You were supposed to leave with him voluntarily, then be transferred to the Busan syndicate's custody within 48 hours. Custody. The word tasted like acid. What would they have? Used you however they saw fit. Labor. Leverage against others. Sale to another organization. His expression didn't change. You would have disappeared. I thought I might vomit. How do you know all this? Because I was sent a copy of the contract. He walked back to the table, pulling out his phone. A few taps, then he turned the screen toward me. It was a scanned document. Korean and English. Logan's signature at the bottom next to a thumbprint. The header read, Collateral Transfer Agreement. My name was listed under Asset Description. Not person. Not individual. Asset. The Busan syndicate operates in territories adjacent to mine, Yi-jun explained, pocketing his phone. When they began making arrangements for an American woman in Gangnam, my people noticed. I acquired a copy. Confirmed your identity. And made a counteroffer. You bought me. I bought the contract. His correction was swift. Not you. The piece of paper that claimed someone else owned you. For considerably more than Logan's debt. How much? 6 million. Plus Logan's debt cleared, with interest. He sat back down. The Busan syndicate doesn't care who pays. They care that they're paid. I stared at this man who just casually mentioned spending $6 million to own a contract with my name on it. So now you own me instead. Yi-jun picked up his chopsticks again, resuming his meal. No, Miss Gary. Now no one does. Yi-jun left the penthouse at 2 a.m. without explanation. I watched from my bedroom window as 3 black SUVs pulled away from the building, disappearing into Seoul's sodium-lit streets. One stayed behind, positioned somewhere in the apartment like a silent sentinel. I should have slept. Instead, I explored. The penthouse felt different without Yi-jun's presence, less vault, more museum. I wandered through rooms I hadn't seen, a home office with monitors displaying security feeds, a gym that looked military-grade, a library filled with books in Korean, English, and Japanese. That's when I found it. Tucked behind a decorative panel in the hallway, a burner phone. Cheap plastic, the kind you buy at convenience stores. It was still warm. Someone had been using it recently. I shouldn't have turned it on. Should have put it back. But my hands were already moving, pressing the power button. One text message thread. No contact name. Just a number. Unknown, the item is secure. Unbuttoned location confirmed. Logan, and the finder's fee. My debt. Unknown, deliver us to the exact address and unit number. We'll handle the rest. Your debt disappears. You get $500,000 on top. Logan, when? Unknown, tonight. 3 a.m. Bureau Industrial District. Bring proof of location. Come alone. The timestamp, 18 minutes ago. If you think Logan is finished, you're wrong. Subscribe now, because what Kayla does next could get her killed. My blood turned to ice. Logan hadn't run. He'd regrouped. Found another angle. He was trading Yi Jun's location, and me, to the same people Yi Jun had paid $6 million to keep away. I heard Juan's footsteps in the living room. Calm. Methodical. He had no idea. I could tell him. Should tell him. But something stopped me, the memory of Yi Jun's calculating eyes at the gala, the way he'd moved toward violence with that same deliberate calm. This needed to end. Not with me hiding in a penthouse while men negotiated my existence like livestock. I made a decision that was probably stupid. The parking garage was accessible through a service elevator. I'd watched one use it earlier. No fingerprint required from the inside. Yi Jun's convoy was preparing to leave, 3 SUVs, engines running. I could see drivers checking weapons, speaking into earpieces. The trunk of the middle vehicle was slightly ajar, waiting for equipment. I didn't think. Just moved. I slipped inside the trunk, pulling it closed until it clicked softly. Darkness swallowed me. The space smelled like leather and gun oil. Something hard pressed against my ribs, a spare ammunition case. The vehicle lurched forward minutes later. Through the thin barrier between trunk and cabin, I heard voices in Korean. Then one phrase in English that confirmed everything. Bureau Industrial District. Warehouse 7. We drove for 30 minutes. My legs cramped. My heart hammered so hard I thought they'd hear it through the seat. The SUV finally stopped. Doors opened. Footsteps. Commands in Korean. Then silence. I waited 5 minutes before carefully releasing the trunk latch from the inside. Cold air hit my face. Rain. The smell of rust and abandonment. I was in Hell's parking lot, and somewhere in the darkness ahead, Logan was about to make his final mistake. The warehouse looked like something from a nightmare, rusted metal, shattered windows, rain pouring through holes in the roof. Puddles reflected flickering industrial lights from the surrounding factories. I crouched behind a stack of rotting pallets, close enough to see but hopefully hidden by shadows and rain. Yi Jun stood in the center of the open warehouse floor, flanked by 4 of his men. He looked exactly as he had at the gala, black suit, white shirt, that same unsettling calm. Rain spotted his shoulders. Across from him, 5 men in dark clothing. Busan Syndicate. I recognized the type from movies, hard faces, harder eyes, the posture of people accustomed to violence. The one in front, older with a scar down his jaw, held a folder. You paid for the contract, Scar Jaw said in accented English, probably for Yi Jun's benefit. Deal was closed. Why are we here? Because the original debtor is attempting to renegotiate. Yi Jun's voice cut through the rain. Without my consent. Movement from the shadows behind the Busan group. Logan stepped into the light. He looked worse than at the gala, disheveled, desperate, but wearing a smile that made my skin crawl. In his hand, a phone showing what looked like photos of the Unbuttoned penthouse. There she is, Logan announced, triumphant. Exactly where I said. Tower 3, Penthouse 5. The girl and your new problem, all in one place. He turned to Yi-jun. See, here's the thing, you might have paid them, but I know where you live. That's worth something. Scarjaw looked between them, calculating. The American makes a point. Intelligence has value. Yi-jun tilted his head slightly. Does it? Then he unbuttoned his jacket. Not just one button this time. All of them. The movement was deliberate, almost theatrical. The jacket fell open, revealing not just the shoulder holster but the full extent of his tattoos, ink that covered his ribs, his chest, disappearing beneath his collar. The syndicate markings of someone with serious rank. But more importantly, it was a signal. Red laser dots appeared on every Busan operative's chest. One on Scarjaw's forehead. Two on Logan. The Busan men froze. Snipers on 3 rooftops, Yi-jun said conversationally. The signal was the jacket. You're already dead. You just don't know it yet. Logan's smile evaporated. Wait. The contract. Yi-jun extended his hand toward Scarjaw. Give it to me. Scarjaw hesitated, then slowly pulled papers from his folder. The original. I could see Logan's signature from here. Yi-jun took it, walked to a rusted barrel, pulled out a lighter. This document no longer exists. He lit the corner. Paper curled and blackened. The woman's name is never spoken again. Not by you. Not by anyone in your organization. Not by the American. You can't just, Logan started. The laser dots on his chest intensified. Touching her means going through me, Yi-jun continued, watching the contract burn. Through my organization. Through every alliance I hold in Seoul, Busan, and beyond. He looked up at Scarjaw. Are we clear? Scarjaw watched his leverage turn to ash. Finally nodded. Clear. Good. Yi-jun dropped the burning paper into the barrel. Take your men and leave. The American stays. Logan's face went white. What? No, we had a deal. You had nothing. Yi-jun's expression never changed. You're done. The Busan syndicate disappeared into the rain like ghosts. Logan stood alone in the center of the warehouse, laser dot still painting his chest, his breathing ragged with panic. Please, he started. I can disappear. You'll never hear from me again. I swear. You're right, Yi-jun said. I won't. Sirens cut through the rain. Blue and red lights flooded the warehouse entrance as 3 police vehicles pulled up. Not regular patrol, these were serious units. Officers in tactical gear emerged, weapons drawn. Logan's face went from white to gray. You called the cops. I provided them with evidence. Yi-jun buttoned his jacket back up, casual. Assault at the Signal Seoul, captured on 8 different security cameras. Fraud charges related to your gambling debts, falsified loan applications, identity theft. And the most interesting one, attempted human trafficking. That contract you signed. Korean law is very clear about selling people. The officers surrounded Logan. One began reading rights in Korean, then English. You set me up, Logan lunged forward. He didn't make it 2 steps. Yi-jun's men intercepted him, forcing him to his knees as the police moved in with handcuffs. I documented everything you did, Yi-jun said, looking down at him. Every crime. Every signature. Every threat. You built your own prison. They dragged Logan away, still screaming threats that dissolved into the rain. I waited until the police cars disappeared before climbing out from behind the pallets. Yi-jun turned slowly, unsurprised. The trunk, he said. Not a question. The trunk. Juan will be demoted. Don't. I stepped into the light, rain soaking through my borrowed clothes. I needed to see it end. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded toward the remaining SUV. The ride back was silent. The penthouse felt different when we returned, less like a vault, more like a space I might actually breathe in. Yi-jun dismissed his men, leaving just the two of us in the living room with Seoul sprawled below. "You can leave," he said finally, standing by the windows. "I'll arrange protection until you're settled wherever you choose. New identity if you want it. Financial support. You're free, Miss Gary." I walked to stand beside him, looking out at the city that had terrified me for months. "What if I don't want to leave?" He turned to look at me, something unreadable in his dark eyes. "This isn't a safe life." "I've been running for 2 years," I said quietly. "Different cities. Different countries. Always looking over my shoulder. Always terrified." I met his gaze. Tonight was the first time I stopped running and actually saw the monster disappear. Because I made him disappear. Yes. I didn't look away. And I'm tired of being afraid. Seoul glittered below us, a million lights, a million lives, all of them moving forward while I'd been stuck in reverse. "I'm not asking for promises," I continued. "I'm not asking for anything except, to stop running. To stay somewhere I'm not prey." Yi-jun was quiet for a long moment, his reflection sharp in the glass. "Then stay," he said finally. "But understand, my protection comes with a price. Visibility. Association with me. That makes you a target of a different kind." I thought about the red dress in the closet. The months he'd watched over me without asking for anything. The way he'd burned that contract like it was blasphemy. I'll take my chances. 3 weeks later, I returned to the Signal Seoul. Same crystal chandeliers. Same marble floors. Same elite crowd and designer labels worth more than most people's annual salaries. But this time, I walked through the entrance with my arm linked through Yi-jun's. The black gown he'd had custom-made fit like it was painted on, elegant, expensive, impossible to ignore. My hair was styled in a way that deliberately exposed my neck and shoulders. No hiding. No shrinking. The ballroom went silent as we entered. Not the awkward silence of witnessing violence. The heavy silence of recognizing power. Every head turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. A woman's champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. The same people who'd watched Logan drag me across this floor now watched me return on the arm of Seoul's most dangerous man. Yi-jun guided me across the ballroom with deliberate slowness, his hand resting at the small of my back. We walked to the exact spot where I'd been on my knees 3 weeks ago, where my dress had torn, where my screams had been ignored. He stopped there. Turned to face the crowd. "Some of you were here 3 weeks ago," Yi-jun said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the silent room. "Not loud. Just absolute. You saw something you pretended not to see." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. No one made eye contact. "Let me clarify something." His hand moved fractionally closer to his jacket. The room noticed. "Miss Gary is not a guest in my care. She is not under temporary protection." His dark eyes swept across the gathered power players. "She is with me. Permanently." The weight of those words settled over the ballroom like a physical thing. "Anyone who speaks about her past," he continued, "anyone who questions her presence, anyone who shows her anything less than the respect afforded to my own person," his hand rested against his jacket, right where the buttons began, "will answer to me personally." Dead silence. Then, from near the bar, a voice. Male. Slightly drunk. Probably stupid. "That's the American who was getting dragged around like a..." He didn't finish. Yi-jun's hand moved to his jacket button. Just touched it. Didn't unbutton. Didn't need to. The man's face drained of color. He stumbled backward, knocking over someone's drink, then turned and fled toward the exit like the building was collapsing. No one else spoke. Yi Jun's hand dropped back to his side. He turned to me, offering his arm again, and guided me toward the balcony where Seoul sprawled beneath us in a carpet of lights. Behind us, conversation slowly resumed. Careful. Respectful. I looked out at the city that had once felt like a hunting ground. Regrets? Yi Jun asked quietly. I thought about Logan in a Korean prison cell. The contract burning in a rusted barrel. The months I'd spent hiding, terrified, alone. Not one. He nodded, something almost resembling a smile touching his lips. Below us, Seoul glittered, a city that now knew my name, my face, and exactly who stood beside me. I wasn't running anymore. I was exactly where I chose to be. The most protected woman in South Korea. And I'd never felt more free. If you want part 2 of Kayla and Yi Jun's story, hit like, subscribe, and comment, because the next chapter is where love becomes war.